Did I mess up my whole head? A lot of people are judging their locks too early. They're looking at a temporary stage and making permanent decisions from that place. If you restart every time your hair gets uncomfortable, you may never get to the part where your locks settle in. Restarting without clarity can put you right back in the same place emotionally. I'm not a loctician, so I'm not here to diagnose you. The statement, "I hate my locks," is just way too broad. You need to identify the actual problem. The goal is not just a new set of locks. The goal is a better understanding. Now let's get into it. Before you restart your locks, I want you to pause for a second, because there is a difference between having a real foundational issue and panicking because your hair is in a stage nobody prepared you for. And if you're in the beginning of your lock journey, I know how easy it is to spiral. You start looking at your parts too closely, you start to wonder if your locks are too big, and then if they're too small, if they're too spaced out, too thin, the list goes on and on. Then you compare them to someone else's online and it's mature locks, and suddenly you're thinking, did I mess up my whole head? So today we're talking about the question that comes up all the time in the lock community: should I restart my locks? And we're not answering that with a simple yes or no, because it's not always that simple. Sometimes restarting is a valid correction. Sometimes the foundation does not match the look that you want long term. But sometimes what feels like regret is really just discomfort with the stage that you're in. I'm not a loctician, so I'm not here to diagnose you. I am speaking to you as someone in the community who has lived that journey, who has done their research, listened to professional perspectives, and seen the same anxiety come up over and over and over again inside of my research. Now, by the end of this video, I want you to be able to ask better questions. Not, do my locks look bad? I want you to be able to ask, is this a size issue? Is this a parting issue? Is this a stage issue? Is this tension or a health issue that needs professional input? That's what I'm calling the 4-part restart check. Because restarting should be a decision and not a panic response. And if this is the kind of lock conversation that you've been looking for, clear, honest, and not overly complicated, go ahead and like this video and subscribe. It helps me to know that these deeper lock conversations are useful. Now let's get into it. The first thing we need to talk about is this: your starter locks are not your mature locks. That sounds obvious, right? But when you're in the beginning stage, it can be hard to really truly believe that. Your parts may look very visible. Your locks may look smaller than you expected. They may look puffy or uneven at times, too spaced out, or just not as full as you imagined yet. And because everything is so fresh, it's easy to assume that what you see in month 1 is what you're going to have forever. But that is not how locks work. Lock stages are usually broken down into 4 or 5 phases, depending on who you ask. The names change, but the overall flow is usually the same. Your hair starts in a more defined shape. Then it begins to frizz, swell, bud, and shift. And then it can go through a more unpredictable stage where it shrinks and then expands and looks uneven. And over time, it begins to condense, settle, and eventually mature. So if your starter locks look awkward right now, that does not automatically mean something is wrong. It may just mean you're looking at the construction phase and expecting the final reveal. And if you want a deeper breakdown of each stage, I got you. I have a full lock stages deep dive video where I walk through what it typically looks like in each phase. I'll link it below. But for this video, the main point is simple. A lot of people are judging their locks too early. They're looking at a temporary stage and making permanent decisions from that place. And I think social media just makes it worse sometimes, because a lot of lock inspiration we see online is mature locks. They're beautiful, full, styled, shaped, settled locks, but they're mature. Then someone starts their journey, looks in the mirror at month 2 and feels disappointment because their hair does not look like the inspiration photo yet. But your hair is not behind. Your hair is just becoming, it's trying to get to the maturity stage. Now let's talk about parts real quick. Parts matter, and I don't want to minimize that at all. Your parting system is part of your lock foundation. It can affect how your locks fall, how they look, how easy they are to style, how visible your scalp is in the beginning, and how uniform the overall look feels. But parts are not the only thing that determine your final lock size. Your final lock size is also shaped by your density, your texture, your curl pattern, shrinkage, starting method, maintenance method, and how your hair naturally wants to lock. It's a lot. So two people, for example, can have similar part sizes and still end up with very different locks at the end of the day. Someone with very dense hair may have fuller locks from the same part size than someone with lower density hair. Someone with tighter coils may lock and compact differently than someone with looser curls. And someone who starts with two-strand twist may have a different beginning look than someone who starts with coils, braids, instant locks, or interlocking. This is why comparing your starter locks to someone else's mature locks can send you into a complete spiral. A lot of people ask, are my parts too big? But the better question is, will this foundation support the look and lifestyle I actually want? Because bigger parts are not automatically bad. Bigger parts can mature into fuller, thicker locks. They can look strong, full, dimensional, and depending on your hair, they may also require less maintenance over time. But they may also give you fewer locks in a different shape and less styling flexibility than you might have imagined. So it's not really about good or bad, it's about fit. If you want fuller, traditional locks, bigger parts may make sense. If you want smaller locks with more movement and styling flexibility, smaller sections may align more with that goal. If you want micro locks, that comes with a different level of maintenance, time, and cost. And if you want something softer, fuller, or more organic, perfect parts may not matter to you as much. The question is not just, are my parts too big? The question is, does this foundation match the life I actually want to live with my locks? Because sometimes people are not actually unhappy with their locks. They're unhappy because their foundation doesn't match the aesthetic that they had in mind. And that is an important difference. Now, let's get into the 4-part restart check. The first question is this a size issue? Now, what I mean by that is, are your locks truly too big or too small for the look you want long term? Not just they look weird right now or they don't look like someone else's, but actually, does the size support the type of locks I want to have when they are fully mature, not just right now? Because if you wanted small, lightweight, highly flexible locks and your foundation is clearly set up for something with much larger locks, that may be worth revisiting. But if your locks are only looking thin and puffy and frizzy or uneven because they're still in the early starter stages, that may not be a size issue. That may just be like a stage issue. The second question is this a parting issue? Do you actually dislike the grid, the sectioning, the shape, or the way the parts were created? Or are you just uncomfortable seeing your parts clearly in the beginning? Like, do you just not like seeing your scalp like that? Because that's a real distinction that you have to make. In the beginning, parts can look very visible because the hair has not fully filled in, it hasn't expanded, it hasn't settled, and that can make people panic. But visible parts in the early stages don't automatically mean your parting is bad. A true parting issue is more like knowing the sections are not the size you wanted and feeling bothered by the parting pattern every time you see it. Realizing the foundation doesn't support your styling goals, or knowing you wanted a completely different structure from the beginning. That is different from simply being in the early stage where everything looks fresh, separated, and sometimes unfinished, you know? The third question is this a stage issue? And this is a big one, okay? Because a lot of what makes people nervous in the early stages is actually part of the normal maturity process. Frizz, shrinkage, budding, unevenness, visible parts, swelling. The starter pattern is fading, locks looking thinner, fuller at different points. None of that automatically means your locks are failing. It just means your hair is doing what locks do. It's shifting from loose hair into a more permanent condensed form. And again, if you think your issue might be a stage issue, watch my lock stages deep dive video after this before making a permanent decision. Understanding the stage can help you avoid panicking over things that may actually just be normal. The fourth question is this a tension or health issue? This is where I would slow down and take things really seriously. If you're dealing with pain or excessive tension, thinning at the root, repeated unraveling, breakage, scalp issues, or anything that feels physically uncomfortable, that's not something I would brush off as trust the process. This is where you need to like get professional input that really matters. There is a difference between normal lock development and something that may affect the long-term health of your hair. Normal development may look like frizz, shrinkage, budding, some of the things we were talking about earlier in the beginning, and the patterns changing as far as how your locks look, and your hair not looking like complete or finished or matured. And this is where I really want to emphasize: consult your loctician. Ask them what they see. Ask whether your parting supports your desired size. Ask what they expect your locks to look like as they mature. But also, if you feel dismissed, rushed, judged, or uncomfortable asking questions, do not be afraid to vet another loctician. Your lock journey can become a long-term relationship. It's very intimate, it can be expensive, and you deserve to work with someone who respects your goals, your concerns, and your hair. Sometimes you need corrections. Sometimes you just need reassurance. Either way, you should feel informed before making a major decision like restarting. Now let's talk about when restarting might actually make sense, because restarting is not always wrong. Restarting may make sense if your foundation truly does not match what you want long-term. If your parts are clearly set up for a size you do not want, that may be something to revisit. If your parting pattern bothers you so much that you know you will not be able to enjoy the journey, that matters. If you started without enough information and now understand that a different size or method or parting system better fits your goals, restarting may be a correction and not a failure. And if a professional tells you that your foundation may create long-term issues, take that seriously. But here is where I want people to slow down. Do not restart just because your locks look frizzy. Do not restart just because your parts are visible in the beginning. And do not restart just because your locks look thin at month 2. That's not the finished and completed look. Do not just restart because your hair shrank at a certain stage. Do not restart just because your locks do not look like someone else's. Don't restart just because you're in an awkward stage. Sometimes what feels like regret is really just discomfort with the stage you're in. Your hair may not be failing, it's just forming, and that distinction truly matters in a lot of this context that we're talking about today. Because if you restart every time your hair gets uncomfortable, you may never get to the part where your locks settle in and you get to see the final form. Now, before we move into the final part, if this video is helping you feel less confused about your lock journey, take a second to like the video and subscribe. A lot of people find this video and these conversations when they are deep in research mode, and subscribing helps you to come back when you need the next part of the conversation. Now, I want to bring in something that's truly underrated: lifestyle. Because the right lock size is not just about beauty. It is also about how you want to live your life. And I've kind of touched on it a little bit earlier in this video. If you like frequent retwists and a very polished look, your choices may be different than from someone who wants lower maintenance hair. If you work out often, sweat a lot, or prefer softer, low tension styles, that matters too. If you want to pull your hair up without a headache, if you want your locks to feel more lived in, or if you do not want to maintain a super structured grid all the time, those are real lifestyle factors. For me personally, I love soft, romantic, low tension looks. I don't gravitate towards styles that are super tight or heavy, and that affects the way I think about lock beauty in general. I want locks to feel elevated, beautiful, and functional. Not just cute for the picture, but comfortable enough for real life. And that is the part of why I created Locs Essentials. This portion of the video is brought to you by Locs Essentials. Pronounced Locs. Locs Essentials is my texture-first lifestyle brand, starting with elevated hair accessories with thicker hair, curls, and locks in mind. The whole idea is simple: more hair, less tension. Because once you commit to a lock foundation, the way you style and maintain your hair matters. Our XL scrunchies and satin bonnets are made for that softer, more functional kind of beauty. The kind that protects the hair, but still feels polished. So if you love low ponytails, loose updos, soft romantic styles, or you just want accessories that just feel beautiful without pulling everything really tight, I'll leave you a Locs Essentials link below. Use code THECITY15 for 15% off your order. Now, back to the conversation. The biggest thing I want you to take away from this is that your lock size should be a decision and not a panic response. So if you're thinking about restarting, ask yourself what you actually do not like. Is it the size? Is it the parting, the density, the frizz, the shrinkage, the way they look after a retwist, the way they look without a retwist? Or are you comparing them to someone else entirely? Because the statement, "I hate my locks," is just way too broad. You need to identify the actual problem. Then ask whether this is a stage issue or a foundation issue. If your locks are frizzy, budding, shrinking, and looking unpredictable, that's just part of the process. If your parting, sizing, or method truly does not support your long-term goals, that may be a foundation issue. And before making a final decision, try to find examples of hair similar to yours with similar foundations fully matured. Not just someone with locks you like. Someone with similar density, texture, starting method, part size, and a maintenance routine that you're okay with. Because sometimes we are using the wrong reference point. Then ask yourself if you have talked to a professional, and not just any professional, someone you feel comfortable asking real questions to. Because if you are considering restarting your entire head of locks, it is worth getting a professional's opinion before you make that decision. And finally, if you restart, what would you actually do differently? That question will tell you a lot, because if your answer is vague, "I just want them to look better," you may not be ready to restart. But if your answer is specific, like "I want smaller parts, a different parting pattern, a different starting method, a clearer maintenance plan," then restarting may be a more informed decision. Restarting without clarity can put you right back in the same place emotionally. You start over, the new set goes through a normal awkward phase, and then you panic again. So the goal is not just a new set of locks. The goal is a better understanding. Here is the honest summary. Your starter locks are not the final version. Parts matter, but they are not the only thing that determines lock size. Bigger locks are not bad. Smaller locks are not automatically better. Your density, texture, starting method, maintenance, and lifestyle are all factors that matter. Restarting can be a valid correction, but it should not be your first response to discomfort. Before you restart, you need to know what you are actually trying to fix. So now I want to hear from you. Have you ever thought about restarting your locks? And if you're in that place right now, comment "restart check" and tell me which one you think you're dealing with. Size, parts, stage, or a health-related thing like tension. I want to see which one is stressing people out the most, because I may use some of those questions for a follow-up video. And if this video helped you understand your locks a little better, like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next conversation. I'll see you in the next one.